Welcome to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Discover the personal drive, professional journeys, and business strategies that have made a real impact. It's success from the inside out.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we're chatting with Robert Kulhawy, a Canadian entrepreneur, philanthropist, and environmentalist with over 20 years of experience. Robert has founded several successful companies, including Nuterra, a leader in groundwater remediation and wastewater treatment, and Comerex Corporation, a global IT and digital solutions provider. His extensive work in leadership, innovation, and social change has earned him numerous accolades and positions on prestigious boards. So first of all, Robert, welcome to the show. And do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about what yourself and what you're working on?
Matt, first of all, thank you for the invitation. Always a privilege and a privilege to be on your show and to answer any questions and hopefully provide some information to your listeners. And again, thank you for the privilege and opportunity. Robert Kulhawy, I'm married to a wonderful woman for 39 years, and it's a wonderful thing. Being privileged of being born and raised in Calgary, and I like to make the comment sometimes and joke that when I was born in Calgary, there was 200,000 people, and I'm not that old, so really Calgary has grown so much today at the 1.75 million. I mean, think about it. If you're in Lethbridge, and Calgary was double the size of what Lethbridge is today, it's pretty remarkable.
And like you said, not that long ago, right?
Yeah, and you look at how and it's really a tribute to the policies and really the good governance that Alberta's had as a province over any other jurisdiction in the country. Certainly, this consistent leadership and that's really been a privilege. So I have the privilege of being born and raised here. My father was transferred here, joined the army to fight in Korea. So he moved to Calgary, of course, in the 50s, and built his legacy, stayed in the army, worked hard, started a little business. I had the privilege of like I say, being born here, and we were all working very, very hard. And I think one of the things more than anything is I look back at talk about entrepreneurship and being involved in many companies, many organizations, but really it boils down to when I was 8 years old, I went and asked my dad for some money, and my dad calls me out back to I want to go to the store and buy something, and heads back to the shed, and he opens up the door, and I'm going, oh boy, I'm not sure what this is all about, but hands me a snow shovel. And I said, well, what's this? He says, well, son, you know how to shovel the snow. And I said, well, yeah. He said, well, this is how you get money. And I said, well, just give me a few cents and I'll go to the store. He says, no. And I said, well, so he said, take the snow shovel and go door to door, and people will pay you. And I said, so, well, how much do I charge? And he said, well, if every house you go to has you shovel a walk, you're charging too little. If every house you go to doesn't have you shovel a walk, you're charging too much. And off I went. And so, I look back at that and that little lesson, and that's really about entrepreneurship. So it isn't just entrepreneurship as a pure item. It's about life. It's about that life is a balance. It's a blend. It works together. And I think that's no shovel experience from my father. So I look back at that, and I think as an experience, that's really a way to introduce and it's one of the core ethos. And I would say that is advice I give to young people and entrepreneurs and people that I mentor over the years is I carry my life. I talk about my 5 F's I came up with many, many years ago, and that you run your life by those. And my 5 F's are number one is my faith. By having a strong faith, everything else kind of comes together. I have family's number 2. And having a stronger faith makes me a better husband, a better father, a better grandfather now. Number 3 is fitness and health. If you don't have your health, and you don't have your fitness, what do you have? So that's important to keep up. Number 4, of course, is friends. If people don't love and care for you, there's an issue. And number 5 is finances. Finances is important, but it's not. You wouldn't sacrifice the other 4 for that. And so finances is number 5. And those are my 5 F's. I throw in that sometimes there's a 6th and 7th, like fun and fishing or something to that effect. But really, those 5 F's, I think, would really drive everything that I want to do and I want to accomplish in life, and I want to leave the world a little bit better place than in my capacity that I got it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm glad you stopped at the F's there, because I was going to say, we're open language on the show, but maybe don't go that far on it. The other F.
No, end of the day, there's it's all about rounded and blended life, right? So
There you
you
go.
want to continue to bring that all together.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I've never heard that before, the five F's. So very cool. So what's your background? Kind of walk us through, where you started the business career and what you've done.
Yeah, so I think that coming from my parents are still alive. I mean, they're in their 90s, and I'm blessed that they're wonderful people. And so I would say that, first of all, that's my greatest blessing, is a wonderful father with more character, and mother just wonderful people. And so being in Calgary and actually growing up in Northeast Calgary, and which is great. In those days, Mayland Heights was about as far northeast as they got, and it was. But I really had the privilege of always having a little business. So whether I delivered flyers or did shoveled walks or mowed lawns or had a little landscaping business or had a little contracting business, continued to have that, had a little business, merged that in with the small business my dad had, and we worked together to grow that flooring contracting business, which we did, and started a distribution business in 1981. That was a hardwood flooring distribution business, and so I had that. So I had the little contracting business along with the distribution business started, and that continued to grow. And then as time went on, I always added other businesses and continued to add that to the mix, and got involved in a number of different business over the years, and from distribution and manufacturing, certainly environmental technologies, and then certainly contracting and some real estate, and just continued to do that. And so learned a lot along the way. And every time you make a mistake, I feel, and big mistakes, depending on, sometimes it's a PhD mistake, sometimes it's a bachelor's mistake, and often it's a master's mistake. And if you count by how much money those things all cost you, I don't know how many master's degrees I have now and how many PhDs, but from the school of good effort and hard work, you keep getting them. I just hope they cost, every time I have them now, I hope they cost less,
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny actually. I heard a story one time, and I honestly can't remember if this was true or if it's a fable, but somebody in an organization had made a big mistake, like a big mistake, call it $1 million mistake, that it cost the company. And he goes into the CEO's office and, here's my resignation. The CEO says, "What the hell are you talking about? I just invested $1 million into you. Like, that's the best education you can ever have. You're not going anywhere."
Matt, I think that's a really nice way to sum it up. That if people work really hard and they're doing their best intentions, and you've given them the best support, and they make mistakes, you need to continue to support and work. And that CEO that you highlight or mention about how he invested into that individual's life is very true. I mean, because all that you have, all that you really own in yourself is your own mistakes, and so they make you an individual. So you want to learn from those. And I think my father's comment always was, "What did you learn today, son?" And if you learn something every day, no matter what that is, learn something every day. Be a lifelong learner. And so I did a lot of education, but it was all mostly in the evenings, almost exclusively, because of always having a business, even at 17, 18, 19 years old, even in high school, I had businesses on the side. So I lots of education, but when you're having your own businesses, you're cherry picking what courses, what programs, and what fits with what you can take at the time. And so you again, being lifelong learner is critical. So your comments about that are very practical, and I think I would encourage your listeners to always continue to learn.
Yeah. So along the way, I mean, entrepreneurship is not an easy thing by any means. There's always bumps in the road, and like you said, sometimes big bumps and too many of them. But what are some of those challenges that you faced, and what does that, how do you come out of that, and what does that do on the other side?
Well, I think that And I'm going to reference a lot to my father a lot, because I really, is a great guy, and he's, was, he's just a tremendous individual. And his comment was, this idea that, Robert, there's, of all the people in the world, 95% of the people in the world are good and 5% aren't. And whether that's 92% are good or 99.1, the formula, the concept is relevant. And that is that you stay away from the 5% and hang out with the 95. And I think that that's what probably the most important piece is. Just try and surround yourself, try and work with good people. And if somebody's not, you want to, avoid and stay away. And that was probably the biggest hiccup is that I've ever had is, sometimes you just end up discovering a little too late that somebody was in that 5% or whatever that number was. And I think you just have your spidey senses up, but always don't let that taint you. Just do the best you can and still try and treat everybody, give them the benefit of the doubt, think of them with good intentions, and live up to your word, expect them to live up to their word. And if they don't, and you don't, challenge them on that. But it's very important to try and make sure you hang out with the best people you can and be the best person you can in return.
Yeah, people that are close to me will have heard this many, many times out of my mouth, but I've always said, I don't really care how much money it costs me to know that I don't want to do business with somebody. Whether that's $10 that, I don't know, they found a way to steal from me, or whether it's $100,000, that's an expense that I say, you know what, it's worth it, because I want to do business with good people, and I want to do business with good people for a long time. So if I can find out now that I don't want to do business with them, then it's whatever the money it is. It's just money.
I think you're so wise. I mean, I look at that. There's a movie called The Family Man with Nicolas Cage and Tia Leone from 2000. So call it 4 years ago. And in the movie, there's a scene where the angel, or the person that's supposedly coming in and out of Nicolas Cage's life, is a store clerk, and somebody walks into the store clerk, and he gives this woman the wrong change, an extra $10, and she keeps it and runs off. And he just it was more of a test, but it was going. He just shakes his head and goes, "For $10, you just you sold your soul. You sold yourself for what a small number." And so, there's just a great lesson in that. The joke is, and of course you never do this, but the joke is always, if you're gonna do something like that, well, at least make enough so you can run off to Mexico for the rest of your life. But no, of course, but this movie, the concept is for $10, really.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. What was it like to? I mean, you obviously have a lot of love and respect for your dad. What was it like to be able to work with him in some of those businesses?
Well, my dad, of course, would get up in the morning at 5 and leave the house and work all day and come home at 4:30, and then have a very quick early dinner, 20-minute nap with my little brother, and then we'd go off to do some form of work of some form every night. So I spent so much time with my dad, learning a trade, learning life, everything from sweeping floors to collecting money to whatever we had to do. And so that was really helpful. And I say that was the biggest thing, but little things like dad being, a senior NCO in the Army, and for a lot of years, the comments would be, if he'd be, I said, he asked me to get something. I said, run. I mean, now, not right now, don't walk, run, it's just, so you'd had, it really encouraged me and sort of set that example to really work hard, but also run and make things happen fast too. And so, if it's not now, it isn't service. And so that was a good thing. So it was very, it's a lot easier. I look back in life, and it's easier to work in life with, forget about the money your parents have, because, they certainly didn't have a lot when I was, starting out. And so, but that character, those values, those ethics, those honesty, those things that you get from them, that's the stuff that's priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a lot of experience in a lot of different industries. What advice would you give to a young entrepreneur starting their first business? And that might be an 8-year-old, that might be an 18-year-old, that might be a 28-year-old.
Well, I've always said, sometimes I said, there's 11 things that an entrepreneur has to understand and learn. And number 1 and number 11 are the most important. And number 1 is don't run out of cash. And number 11 is don't run out of cash. And everything else in between. So, those things are important, but there's some things such as, real simple one-liners like make a plan and work the plan. So, and the plan needs to be, flexible. And one of the things that I've learned in lessons is because of growing up in Calgary, we've had this situation where the economy goes up and down. And it isn't just, people in Alberta like to talk about, well, it's oil and gas goes up and down and we're based on the price of oil. That's partially true, but it's not entirely true. Alberta is also at the whim of government interventions and different government policies. So if we have a adversarial government in Ottawa, well, regardless of how good the oil and gas industry is, they're coming after Alberta. It's just the way it is. It's so things will go up and down based on that. We've only had one negative anti-business, anti-kind of standard of living, anti-government in my lifetime in Alberta. Right, we had that from 2015 to 19. But other than that, we've had, generally speaking, pretty good governments overall, different parties. But so we've had that consistency. So because you have that up and downs based on sometimes oil and gas prices, sometimes resource prices, but often government-related issues and capital flows, that we've had to diversify. So I would say that one of the lessons and one of the strengths I've had growing up in Alberta is I never want to do one thing. I need to have several things. I need to have several, even within a business, multiple different revenue streams, and always bringing new ones in, and because things will change. And so you've got to have different revenue, or even in your own business, do different things because things aren't going to be the same. So that'd be probably one of my greatest lessons. And as an example, I'll give you an example. When I had the flooring business back as a young man, we were doing new housing, floors in new houses. We're doing floors in commercial, in government buildings, in renovations, and somebody called up and wanted a little front entrance, or even during the boom years in the late 70s, early 80s, they'd want a little closet done or something small. Well, we'd go and do it, and happily, because whereas other people would only want the big job. So because we did a range, when the National Energy Program came in October 28th, 1980, and business kind of really just was awful in here, we were able to continue to grow because we were we were so diversified that everybody else was only interested in the past in new development. So again, diversification within your own specialty, and to be able to continue to look for what's going to be the next thing. That's important. That's critical. You've got in business.
Yeah. You also have a passion for the environment. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Maybe some of the businesses that have been associated with that.
Yeah. So growing up, my dad was always this believer that waste didn't make sense. So things like, why would you leave the water running when you're waiting for it to, for something to do? Right? Of course not. Why do you have water running when you're lathering your hair? Not that I'm doing that right now with my hair.
You don't have that problem anymore.
I don't have a problem. I'm not follically challenged. I don't have to worry about hair. I pity you. You got to spend minutes a day on this stuff, right?
All of it. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not follically challenged. Anyhow. So that's how you look at things, right? But so if you go back to the idea of environment, so we never wasted things. I collected papers, collected bottles. We, always did this recycling way back in the, this is back in the 60s and early 70s. And so,
and that stuff, that wasn't really a big pushback in those days either.
Well, nobody was interested in that. I mean, we were doing it, right? I mean, we were doing it because it made sense. It was the right thing to do. And so, so I just always was passionate about just not wasting, being intelligent. We used old clothes turned into rags, all those kind of things. So when, this was going back in the 80s and early 90s, I was really passionate about, I really started to feel like, I want to do something in the environment. And, but people talk about, well, go ahead and protest. And I went, well, I'm not a very good protester. I can start a business. I don't want to protest. Why would you protest? I mean, you're not getting anything done, right? You're just complaining. I don't want to.
Nobody's listening.
I don't want to complain. I want to do something. You got to do something, right? So, so I went and started at that point. It was called Maple Leaf in Nuterra, and the concept behind that was I wanted to make practical, have solutions, find practical solutions and equipment and to real world environmental issues. So we started off making equipment that was specifically that would help companies and old gas station sites and soil remediation and right on the site. So we basically had systems that would drill holes in the various different old gas station sites. You suck up the old vapors. You'd then go ahead and run that through catalytic oxidizer, and these were mobile systems. And in 6 to 8 months down the road, you could literally replant root vegetables. And so we took that technology, then moved it into water treatment, and of course became into water treatment related. And so we're very practical solutions. So that continued to take off. And we ended up buying a bunch of different businesses and factories and added them together. And I did move it actually the business to Ontario just because during oil and gas boom, if your business isn't totally based on exporting, in those days, it was really tough because when business is booming, oil and gas companies can spend money, like they can spend like drunken sailors, right? They just can't. They've just got that.
And they do.
Yeah, well, and of course, now we're bigger and more diversified as a province, so that changes. That won't be quite the same impact, but that's a positive thing, particularly in the last few years. It's been very positive. But so I think that we did that, and then over the years, I've been involved in different other related, accessory businesses, and we continue to evolve and get into other areas. And we were very much involved in flat plane membranes, where we were turning sewage water into potable water. And so we can turn over the years, I can turn potable water, sewage water into potable water for 1/4 and 1/5 the price that I can turn salt water into potable water. So,
Really?
So there's just because it's so much desalinations, which we had plants and technologies, it's very effective. It's just more expensive. It's much more difficult to remove that saline, that salt. So I've had government appointments. I've was involved in Canada's National Roundtable on the Environment Economy, which is very much is the balance between how you balance the needs of the environment with the needs of the economy, because you can't have a healthy economy without a healthy environment. You can't have a healthy environment without a healthy economy. So we were very involved in that and did that for years. And it was a great, I wish they still continued that whole roundtable today, because that'd be very helpful for the decisions of the current federal government, because they could use a little balance on the other side. So, that would be nice. But so we did this, and over the years, I've been very involved in other related environment. Very much involved in the Canadian Water Portal now. How do we now look at all the information for water across the country, and involved in that on an international basis? But environment's important. But again, let's do practical solutions that solve practical and real world problems. This is not an ideological fight. This is what's right, and it means practically. It does not mean it means doing the right thing. So there's things we can do, right? Like Calgary Co-op, as an example, has come up with this great idea. These beautiful bags that are they're totally compostable, and they're wonderful. Well, the federal government doesn't like them now because they think they look like plastic, and because they're not designed in other parts of the country, they're designed in Alberta, they're not positive. And so suddenly now you get these bags that are a brilliant solution that aren't being used.
You don't want to use.
Yeah, because we're the wrong, and so that doesn't, let's get practical stuff, guys. Let's fix the real problems. If you want to, climate change is real. Great. Well, guess what? Natural gas burns at 42% as much as coal. So we should be producing every bit as much of natural gas as we possibly can, because that'll do a far better job reducing global carbon emissions than anything we can do in Canada, because it'll reduce what India and China can do. So these are just practical things, and that's what we need to do. Let's think practically. Let's not think ideologically.
Yeah, and maybe not, so far left wing or so far right wing. Like, it doesn't have to be that. That's the practicality behind it.
Well, it really isn't it's not ideologically. It's not about that. I mean, right and left is is simply a commercial term used on control or uncontrol the economy. And so it's about just do the right stuff, right? I mean, I always look back at the Norwegian prime minister a few years ago was asked, she was getting some trouble from certain preservationists who said, how dare you, you're opening up a whole bunch of new oil and gas leases and development. Why would you do that? And she said, well, this is her opinion. And she said, the energy use in the world, hydrocarbons, is going to actually increase until at minimum 2052 to 2056. And during that time, it's going to grow. So we as Norway, what she would say is Norway have the best environmental standards in the world. Oh, and we have the best human rights standards in the world. So if we're not increasing and producing more oil and gas as Norway, then they're going to be buying it from some other country that's going to be maybe dictatorship, or not have the same environmental standards, or not treat women with the same rights and respect that we do, and that they deserve and they should have equality. So that and that we can use that money to help help the world and help keep it in the right place. So that was just a good attitude on her behalf, and an explanation about that's not ideological, that's practical and functional.
Yeah, pragmatic, right?
Exactly.
It makes sense. It makes
Let's
sense.
solve the problem, right?
Yeah. With all the experience that you have, and the diverse experience that you have, what type of mentorship do you now do with younger entrepreneurs?
So I got involved actually in '94. I was the international president of YEO, or EO at the time, Young Entrepreneurs and Entrepreneurs Organization, and worked with the Young Presidents Organization that I was a member with at the time, and I'm still a very active member today. And we came up with a program, and I initiated a program called Mentorship, where we actually mentor and gave up programs to mentor younger people in business with people with a little older, a little longer in the tooth, and some different experiences, and maybe a few hard knocks. And so I would say that so I've been involved in that and for many years, and actively and typically mentor a couple people a year, and not all that young anymore. Sometimes these people are sometimes 30, but often 35, 40. And I like it because I actually learn so much. I'm helping and discuss, but I'm also learning what the new trends, what people are doing. It's pretty cool, actually, to keep up to date. But I would say some of the great advice I give is that, you can always make more money, always have more money coming in than going out. And you can always make more money, but you can't, there's certain relationships, there's certain things you can't you can't buy. Your integrity, you want to make sure you're leaving the world better than you got it. And how can you leave with service? How can you make sure that the relationships that are to you, like, if you have no relationship with your wife, or your husband, or your family, or your parents, or your brothers and sisters, and you've got animosity and it's difficult, and you don't have any friends, well, so you got a bunch of money, big deal. So you're rich, so big deal. I mean, you're rich in money, but I mean, my goodness, you can't take it with you. And what's that all about, right? That's what a wasted life that is. So you got $100 million or 50 million, big deal. If you're miserable and nobody likes you, I mean, or people only like you because you got money, I mean, wow, that's so. I really encourage people to try and make sure that they have the blended and balanced life. I use the term blend more than I use the term balance, because I believe that balance is so, what does that mean? But blend is, sometimes you need a little bit more work in that. Like, think of a smoothie. Sometimes you get a little bit of kale. Sometimes you need a little bit of that, a little bit of protein powder in. Sometimes you need a little bit more sweetness. Sometimes you just need a good old fashioned, clean your system out. Sometimes you need a little sugar in it. Sometimes it's more dessert, and it's just like in life, right? Sometimes you have to work a little bit more. Sometimes you have to have a little more vacation, sometimes a little more family. Sometimes you need a little bit more public service. Sometimes you need a little bit of you time. Sometimes you need just to be a person that just gives and works and thinks about others, not yourself. So that's a blend. And that I can resonate with that easier than I can resonate with the balance.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. I've talked about something similar actually to that for a lot of years, but I've never had a word for it. So I'm going to steal that one from you as I explain that moving forward.
I came up with that like 30 plus years ago, back in the days of as international president of EO and running around speaking and so forth, and people kept balance, and I used this term, and suddenly it just made sense to me. Which is a good thing. Another one that I came up with years ago. People kept saying right as I was growing up. Robert, good things come to those that wait. Robert, good things come to those that wait. Just be patient, Robert. Good things come to those. Okay. Finally, then I realized, I woke up one day and I said, you know what? There's some truth to that. Good things come to those that wait. But I added, only that which is left over by those that hustle. And so I've added that because the reality is that, you still have to work. You still have to do all these things. And you want to do it best, but, no matter how much you wish something, you still have to actually go and plant the seed. If you're a farmer, if you don't actually get up in the morning and plant your crops, regardless, you're never going to actually get the harvest. You're never going to they're not going to grow. You can't water them. I mean, you can think all day long, but it's not just going to show up, right? When it comes time to actually get the harvest, if you haven't done the work and done the plant, so you're not going to get that crop. So that's a agrarian term, but it's easy to think that way. So you got to get off and you got to hustle. You got to work hard. You got to some of the old sayings like early to bed, early to rise, makes a man or makes a person healthy, wealthy, and wise. Well, there's some truth to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Robert, if somebody wanted to learn more about you, if they wanted to connect, where would they go for that?
Well, there's a couple places. One, they can contact me through LinkedIn. And if you're going to do that, please be very specific and tell me what you're looking for, and so I can decide if it's something you want to connect with. But commerx.com, www.commerx.com. That's always great to connect. Or else, one of my passions is the Canadian Creed. So I'm the author of Canada's Creed, and it's the Canadian Creed, CanadianCreed.ca. You can always link on there and read the creed and really mean what it means to be, and understand what it means to be a Canadian, like not what it truly is defined, and the creed clearly does define that and helps guide us, and I think that's something to help. So CanadianCreed.ca, commerx.com, those are probably the two best. Or if you really want LinkedIn, just if you're going to do that, be specific
On it. Awesome. Robert, I am thrilled that we had you on the show. It was phenomenal. The wisdom that you have there, really appreciate that. And I know that the listeners will definitely appreciate it as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, a privilege. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and all the best with your show, and all the best to your listeners. Just stay focused, work hard and care about others all around you, including your family, but also including those that are working with you, your employees, and all other stakeholders and everybody you interact with. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Want to be our next guest? Visit beyondwealthpodcast.ca/guest. See you on the next episode.